Good morning, children. So today we'll do the questions and answers of The Portrait of a Lady. Did you read the lesson? Did you go through the lesson? Did you understand? Very good. It's a very beautiful story. So today we'll do the questions and answers. The three phases of the author's relationship with his grandmother before he left country to study abroad. The three phases of the author's relationship with his grandmother before he left the country to study abroad are. Let's see. First, childhood, when he went to the village. When he went to the village school and the grandmother helped him to get ready and went to school with him. Second, boyhood. When he went to the city school in a bus, he shared a room with his grandmother, but she could no longer help him in his studies. Early youth. When he went to the university and was given a room of his own. So he was given a room of his own. The common link of friendship was snapped. 3 reasons why the author's grandmother was disturbed. So why was the grandmother disturbed when he started going to the city school? 3 reasons why the author's grandmother was disturbed are: she hated Western science and learning. She was pained to know that there was no teaching of God and scriptures there. She was allergic to music, especially the Western music was not liked by her. She thought it was not meant for decent people and gentlemen, gentlefolk. It was the monopoly of prostitutes and beggars. Three ways in which the author's grandmother spent her days after he grew up. She lived alone in her room as she had accepted her loneliness quietly. She sat at her spinning wheel reciting prayers. In the afternoon, she would feed the sparrows for half an hour. The odd ways in which the author's grandmother behaved just before she died. So just before her death, the author's grandmother refused to talk to them since she had omitted to pray the previous night while she was singing songs of the homecoming and beating the drum. She ignored their protest. She lay peacefully in bed and telling beads of her rosary. Okay. The way in which the sparrows expressed their sorrow when the author's grandmother died. Thousands of sparrows sat silently surrounding the dead body of the author's grandmother. There was no chirruping, no sound made by the birds. The author's mother threw some crumbs of bread to them, but they did not bother to even look at the breadcrumbs. As soon as the grandmother's corpse was carried off, they flew away. Yes. Now talking about the text. The author's grandmother was a religious person. Yes, she was very religious. What are the different ways in which we come to know this? The author's grandmother was a deeply religious lady. We come to know this through the different ways of her behavior. She visited the temple every morning and read the scriptures, the holy scriptures. At home, she always mumbled inaudible prayers. Nobody could hear that. Inaudible, not heard, and kept telling the beads of rosary. She would repeat prayers in a sing-song manner while getting the writer ready for school. So she would get the writer ready for school. She hoped that he would learn it by heart. She didn't like English school as there was no teaching of God and scriptures. Even while spinning at her spinning wheel, she would recite prayers. Perhaps it was only once that she forgot to say her prayers. It was on the evening prior to her death when she felt overexcited, celebrating the arrival of her grandson with songs and beatings of drum. She continued praying and telling beads of her rosary till her last breath. So she was a highly religious lady, always praying, chanting prayers. Describe the changing relationship between the author and grandmother. Did their feelings for each other change? Let's have a look at the answer. So, did the feelings change? During his boyhood, the author was completely dependent on his grandmother. She was a part of his life. The turning point in their friendship came when they went to city. She could no longer accompany him to school as he went there by bus. They shared the same room, but she could not help him in his studies. She would ask him what the teachers had taught. She did not believe in the what? In Western science and all that. It was not at all liked by her, She didn't like that at all. She did not like that. That was not at all liked by her. So she did not like all that. She was rather offended. Yes. She would no longer accompany him. She did not believe in the things that were taught at school. She was distressed. There was no teaching of God and scriptures. She felt offended that music was also being taught. She expressed her disapproval silently. After this, she really, what? What did she really do? Do you know? She really talked to him. When he went to university, he was given a room of his own. So now he's grown up. The common link of friendship was snapped. Snapped means broken. However, their feelings for each other did not change. It was the same. They still loved each other deeply. She went to see the author off at the railway station when he was going abroad for higher studies to say bye-bye to him. She showed no emotion, did not express her feelings at all, but kissed his forehead silently. The author valued this as perhaps what? The last sign of physical contact between them. When the author returned after 5 years, she received him at the station. She clasped him in her arms. Clasp means to hold tightly. In the evening, she celebrated the homecoming by singing songs and beating an old drum. Would you agree that the author's grandmother was a person strong in character? If yes, give instances that show this. So you have to give instances means examples. Yes, I agree that the author's grandmother was a person strong in character. Yes, she was a very strong lady. She was a strong woman with strong beliefs. Although she was not formally educated, she was serious about the author's education. She could not adjust herself to the... So, grandmother did not like Western type of education. Yes, especially... she was serious about the author's education. She could not adjust herself to the Western way of life. Science and English education she did not like. She hated music and disapproved of its teaching in school. She was a deeply religious lady. Her lips were always moving in a silent prayer. She was always telling the beads of her rosary, always praying, always busy praying, chanting prayers. She went to temple daily and read the scriptures. She was distressed, very unhappy to know that there was no teaching about God and holy books at Kushwan's New English school. She was a kind lady. She used to feed dogs in the village. In the city, she took to what? Feeding sparrows. Although old in years and weak in body, she had strength of mind. Mentally, she was very strong. Just before her death, she refused to talk to the members of the family as she did not want to waste her time. She wanted to make up for the time last evening when she had not prayed to God. She lay peacefully in bed, saying prayers and telling the beads of her rosary till she breathed her last. Breathed her last means she died. Question number 4. Have you known someone like the author's grandmother? Do you feel the same sense of loss with regard to someone whom you have loved and lost? Yes, I have known my grandfather who loved me deeply and looked after me. He had served in the army before he retired as a colonel 20 years ago. So nice. When I was a school-going kid, he was still active and smart. See, children, grandparents love their grandchildren really so much. All grandparents love their grandchildren. Right, children? Yes. Do you agree with this? Yes. Okay. He was fond of walking, jogging and playing outdoor games. Children, here you can write your own answer. This is just a sample, okay? He inspired us to get up early in the morning. It's a very good habit. Getting up in the morning is a very good habit. It keeps you healthy. He believed that a healthy mind lives in a healthy body. He used to give us good physical exercises, followed by milk and nourishing food, and then asked us to study for a while before going to school. In the afternoon, he would inquire what he had been taught at the school. So nice. This shows the concern, right, children? He would help us in our homework, supervise our reading, writing, and doing sums. He was gentle but firm. He laid stress on good habits and character building. He passed away when I had gone abroad for higher studies. I miss him a lot. A sense of loss fills me whenever I see his portrait on the wall. But his cheerful looks remind me to take heart and fight the struggle of life. Okay, children, look at this. Talk to your partner about the following. Your partner is not there. You're not in school right now. So you think and you write the answer, right? Which language do you think the author and his grandmother used while talking to each other? The author's grandmother was not much educated. So, I think the author and his grandmother used to talk in their mother tongue. Obviously, in this case, Punjabi. Why Punjabi? Khushwant Singh was a Punjabi. So, therefore, his mother tongue must have been Punjabi. So, he must have been talking to his grandmother in mother tongue. Why this guess? This type of guess? Because grandmother was not much educated. Which language do you use to talk to elderly relatives in your family? Obviously mother tongue again, English, Hindi. I feel at home greeting them in English but like to converse with them freely in Hindi. Yeah, we converse in our mother tongue. Yes, children. What is the expression used in your language for a dilapidated drum? Fata Purana. It's in a very bad condition, That is called dilapidated. Can you think of a song or poem in your language that talks of homecoming? There's so many. Yeah? Notice the following uses of the word tell. Her fingers were busy telling the beads of a rosary. Telling, here she touches every bead, yes, and then she chants prayers. I would tell her English words and little things of Western science and learning. At her age, one could never tell. She told us that her end was near. So given below different senses that word tell. Okay, make something known to. These are the answers. Just have a look at the answers, children. Please note down. Now have a look at these. Notice the form of the verbs highlighted in these sentences. Just see that. My grandmother was an old woman. She had been old and wrinkled for the 20 years that I had known her. People said that she had once been young and pretty and had even had a husband, but that was hard to believe. Next one, when we both had finished, we would walk back together. When I came back, she would ask me what the teacher had taught me. It was the first time since I had known her that she did not pray. The sun was setting and had lit her room and veranda with a golden light. These are examples of the past perfect forms of verbs. When we recount things in the distant past, when we talk about long past, we use this form of verb. Now notice these sentences, the verbs here. We understood the poem only when the teacher had explained it twice. When the rain came, they had already reached the hotel. We had worked together on that project for 6 months before she left me. It was the first time since I had lived there that it began to snow. The full moon was in the sky and had scattered its soft light all around. That is light, children. Okay, now see here, grandmother. This is about grandmother. So you also write about your grandmother, children. Yes. Give it a heading like this, my grandmother. This is a sample that I'm showing you. No need to copy the same. You write your own answer. This is just for some ideas. You can get some ideas from this answer. Okay, children, have a look at the answer, children. Read it, go through it, write your own answer. I hope I'm clear to you. Yeah. See, read this answer, children, very carefully. Take some points from here. Shield means what? She was my protection. She was my shield means protection. See, a lovely answer about grandmother. Are you reading it? I'm sure you are. Shows the love of grandmother for their grandchildren or grandchild. Grandparents love their grandchildren so much that words cannot express or explain. How long had the narrator known his grandmother? Old and wrinkled. What did people say? How did the narrator react? The narrator had known his grandmother for the last 20 years. She was terribly old. It was very difficult to believe that once upon a time she must have been young, she must have been pretty and all that. Yes. So the narrator found it very difficult to believe it. How did the narrator's grandfather appear in the portrait? His clothes were loose, he looked very old, He had long white beard. He looked at least 100 years old. That means what? Very old. Yes? Yeah. So that's all for this session. Children, go through the lesson, write down the questions and answers, read and revise the lesson. Thank you. Goodbye.